Aloha and mahalo for tuning in and catching this. It's Dave Lawrence, and I'm here at Kaka'ako Waterfront Park. It's the second annual Republic Music Festival, and I'm following up a phone interview that I did a couple months ago, I guess it was, that you and I talked with the great David Hinds from Steel Pulse, who is generously taking some time to speak with us in the middle of the afternoon here. Aloha and mahalo, my brother.
Aloha. From one David to the next.
Two Davids in the house. How was the, you were, and it's really nice of him to do this, and I say generous not just because it's great to have his time, but you guys just did a Guam one. Was it 2 days ago you were in Guam?
Yeah, I mean, when you come this side of the world, it's exhausting. The 33-hour flight, starting from New York to San Francisco, then we got diverted to Japan because of some flight problems at San Francisco's airport. We ended up in Japan, then had to wait again, and then we got to Guam, and now we're here. So, wow, it's a trek.
All the way to Asia just to do that. That's crazy. And is the vibration for reggae in Guam anything like it is here in the islands?
Well, I didn't have a clue until I went there last night. Well, a couple of nights ago, and in all honesty, it was Kauai in Hawaii that was the loudest crowd that we've ever experienced. But now Guam is taking it all off the Richter scale. So you got a lot of things. You got something to root for tonight, guys.
You know what's interesting? That's so funny that you say that, because when you think of the sales of reggae records throughout the whole state, the island of Kauai is the #1 selling place for reggae in the state.
So that explained all that racket last year.
It really does, because I remember when I first moved here, and my buddy was telling me that per capita, the island of Kauai sells more reggae than anywhere in the planet. And I was thinking, wow. And then when I visited there, you didn't really pick it up. But when you said that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, telling you, what an experience it was.
And is there the thing about our interview that we just ran? It was yesterday that our feature ran on the air. It was a special kind of interview because you and I we dedicated a lot of time to talking about a cause that I know is near and dear to your heart. Since doing the interview, I've learned more about your passion for Haiti, because I read the long web entry, I guess, that did you type all that in yourself about your visit?
Yes, I did.
It's incredible. I mean, you're so passionate. So the one thing that stuck out to me, which I would really like to hear a little bit more about, you have this quote. It says, and you can read it, go to steelpulse.com and you can find it there. The word mayhem is simply not descriptive enough. David, on arriving at the airport in Haiti, what was going through your mind? Kind of paint that picture for us.
Well, as you know, Haiti is really a typical third world country as far as everybody hustling and trying to make a buck. And actually arriving at the airport, everyone wanted to carry your suitcases. Even if you had 4 wheels and could carry it yourself, they just wanted to volunteer to carry something that they could earn a few dollars or so. And that's how it was. And it was like that throughout the entire airport experience. And that's how it is. Everybody's hustling and trying to make a living there right now.
What did it feel like to be cruising around on the ground? You see a lot of hard times, but I know that part of it, I saw you with your acoustic guitar, you were visiting people, you were, as you said, trying to lift people's spirits up, not just with the gig, but making personal appearances, hanging out with people who have been through experiences that probably you and I would never, ever want to have to go through. What is something that, as I bring that to your mind, that comes to your head and says, man, well, one of my favorite experiences there was maybe sharing some music with...
The experience was pretty much diverse from one day to the next. I mean, one minute we were outside the palace, and right across the street from the palace was a whole fleet of dilapidated cardboard type boxes and places of tents, you name it, shacks, zincs, just stuck along each side. Everybody's trying to find somewhere to live, and just to see from one extreme to the next. That was another experience. Another experience was to travel so far out and still see the poverty. So not only that, where it was struck in Port-au-Prince, the actual capital, but you go other parts of Haiti throughout, and the poverty is pretty much the same.
And the poverty was there before the earthquake too. It's part of what you're saying. It's like, in addition to being a lot of it being destroyed by the earthquake, they had already been going through this terrible situation where nothing had been built properly, and so many people had been living in these conditions.
Yeah, and I think one of the setbacks have been, because they're so used to be poverty-stricken as an island, that when it comes for their cries of help, I think it's falls on deaf ears, if you see what I'm saying. And they themselves, I think, they've gotten used to the idea that's the way things are. So people like ourselves that go and see it will go, what? But they've gotten used to that, but it doesn't mean that it's right. Well, another thing that sort of stuck in my mind as well was to see the amount of Americans that were down there trying to make things happen and not under the banner of the American
government, but individuals with their own contracting plans that they've had, and offering freebies as such, where they'll probably construct something but they give you something else in addition to what, so you get more than your value for money when it comes to trying to get the place built up. So just literally giving their ideas and their plans away and anything they could have to help shelter the people. So I was sort of impressed with that, because America is not really painted in a good light when it comes to the humanitarian part, when you know about the fact that no real donation has been contributed by the government to Haiti, along with the French government and so many others. I mean, the last time I checked, maybe now, but the last time I checked, Canada and Australia were the two main countries that literally put their monies where their mouths were. What made you, first of all, had you ever seen poverty like that firsthand before? Had you ever been to Haiti before?
No, so it was our first time there. And it was the poverty that I've seen that comes close to that is what I see in Africa. And I've said it in my interviews. Haiti reminds me of a part of Africa that's broken off and floated across the Atlantic, and that happens to situate itself in the Caribbean. So as far as I'm concerned, Haiti is the most Afrocentric country there is in the Western Hemisphere, by far.
What are the differences that you felt upon being there compared to Jamaica?
The differences was, I noticed, Jamaica is something else.
There's a lot of poverty there too. I've only been once, but it hit me hard. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
It's just the way that the people's mannerisms and how they conducted their business and their lives had a more Afrocentric feel to it, as if they had less of a Western influence. Almost as if, I imagined like Russia and East Germany, behind the Iron Curtain. It's almost as if there was an Iron Curtain that was erected there. And there was not much Western world influences as far as, in their cars, their trucks, their taxis were so decorative. It was made out of all kinds of things that you could think of, whether it's an oil pan, and they've sort of painted little bits of it and decorated with all kinds of things to do with the Virgin Mary or Christ-like. And it was just like that, which is similar ideologies, similar ideas that are in Africa. And I'm sure none of the Haitians ever been to Africa before, just how well they've maintained their African liberty as such after all those centuries have been divided, and there's still that connection there. And I'm sure that the 9 million that are there have never seen Africa literally. Right. So those are the things, and I find Jamaica a lot more westernized than Haiti is, and that's a difference for me.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense, and there is a big difference in the way you described it. Plus the heritage of Jamaica with the British. It has a whole different heritage. Hold On for Haiti. Talk a little bit about that effort, and there's a great song that you've done, and just give a little bit of voice to it.
Hold On for Haiti was originally recorded the day after the actual earthquake took place. And we heard it on the 12th. We were in the studio at the time recording our new album, and we just heard like a shudder, but we didn't think anything of it. Then someone switched on their iPhone and started to do a bit of scanning on the net and surfing on the net, and realized that it was Haiti that just experienced an earthquake. And we were moved by it, not only literally, but spiritually and mentally. And the next day I got up and just says, let's do this, and we just recorded that. Just laid the track and continued recording. I completed the recordings while I was in Australia and one of the French Caribbean islands, Martinique, and then we put it out.
It's a great thing, and there are probably a lot of things that people, when you think of roots reggae, this is a natural thing. It's like standing up for causes, standing up for things that matter. That's the spirit of what, and you said it yourself. You learned it from the master. You were there opening for Bob, opening for the Wailers. Truly, would you look at him as the guy who sort of instigated that, or can you give credit to anyone else in your life who you also look at as a role model for teaching you, what, the music can be a message for really important things?
Marley has to be the forerunner, but there's been others as well. Over the years, Gil Scott-Heron, who passed just only a year ago, was another mentor, someone I actually admired when it comes to the American history and the American politics. Gil Scott-Heron has been responsible for that, for the knowledge that I have ascertained about America and the politics. You know, if Nixon knew, Ag knew, but Ag didn't knew enough to stay out of jail. I mean, I didn't know anything about the Watergate scandal until Gil Scott-Heron painted that picture. We heard about it, but we didn't know how, wow, what an incredible, phenomenal experience when it comes to the American history, what took place with that. So I got Gil Scott-Heron was the last poets, and those from out of Los Angeles as well, the Lost Prophets, the Watts Prophets, as well. So those are the influences, and they're all politically motivated type of acts, if you see what I'm saying. So I always gravitated towards those that were more politically orientated than those that were just musical. I mean, we listen to a lot of musical people as well. I mean, there was the Crusaders when it comes to the jazz, Herbie Hancock, who I mentioned earlier today, George Benson, guys like that. The Pointer Sisters, when it came to fine-tuning our harmonies, we thought they were very influential in our developments along those lines, as well as the Wailers were, and the list goes on. War, Mandrill, the list goes on.
When it came to the thing that you and I have never ever addressed is the guitar side of it. When you think of the guitar, because we talked about, I've heard all this the musical perspective when it comes to the motive for the lyrics, the motive for the soul, the passion. When it comes to the instrumentation, who were the guys that really made you want to play and that inspired you the most in that way?
Well, so many others. It's in regards to the guitar playing, although I'm a rhythm guitarist, I mean, I liked Nile Rodgers from Chic at the time. And Hendrix did one or two things in songs like Rainy Days and Voodoo Child, songs like that. We also listened to Jeff Beck. We did one or two dates with John McLaughlin. I had admiration for Larry Carrial. As far as I'm concerned, Ray Gomez, a guitar player with Stanley Clarke back in the day, as far as I was concerned, he was born with the guitar when he came out with his mother. Those are the kind of guitarists I was sort of familiar with at the time. Leslie West.
These are the names that you would know. Mountain, you just wouldn't expect like this like roots reggae cat to be dropping like Larry Coryell, John McLaughlin, Leslie West of Mountain. I have like Mississippi Queen going through my head, wondering like how drawing the bridge to you. I
know those aren't the names you'd hear a reggae artist would be mentioned when it comes to their development, but from my backyard, from my standpoint, from my experience, those were the guys that I was attracted to. Albert King, Freddie King, B.B. King. It was Pete Hancock from Climax Blues Band. Those are the guys that I was gravitating towards during my development.
I love it. That's what makes Steel Pulse so special and enduring, because it is such a broad thing. David, I so appreciate you being willing to take a few minutes and do this with us. I hope this wasn't a pain in the ass for you, brother.
Dave, you should not appreciate anything around me. You should appreciate love it. Okay?
You're a good man. Thank you, brother.
All right. Blessings.